I want to start this talk recognizing my dad. I think he was the reason I pursued a PhD in emotional experience. And the reason I did that was because my dad really cares about his customers. When I call him, "Hey, Dad, I got to tell you how I'm doing on my PhD." He's like, "Well, that's great, Elliot, that's great, but let me tell you about the bus today. You see, Jimmy got in a fight with Joey. And little Susie, she's doing great on her math test." My dad has this wonderful ability to care about the people around him and create a great experience. I want to do a little project with you guys here today. I want everyone to close their eyes. And I want you to think about someone that you love, someone you care about. And what you'll notice is I want you to look at your body. What's happening? You actually feel something. Something's going on in your mind. There's an emotional reaction. You can open your eyes now. This is my mom. And my dad took this picture of my mom at 4 a.m. in the morning when they were painting the house. And he told my mom, "You look like a princess." And what's amazing about this picture is we can tell exactly the emotional experience my mom's having. We can see the little furrow in her mouth, and we can see how her brows are pointed a little bit down. She might be a little bit angry at my dad. Now, this seems obvious, but it's pretty amazing that our mind can calculate all of this subconsciously. We can have a loving response, a caring response towards my mom without having to even think about it. And even further research with mirror neurons is suggesting that not only do we understand my mom's angry, we start to replicate that ourselves. So people and humanity in general are really good at caring for each other. This is one of my favorite examples. This is an old man, and he's walking down in the rain back to his car. And what we see is the employee going to get an umbrella and carrying the umbrella to the car. Now, the employee didn't have to do this, but he did this out of love. And you probably know where my talk is going. I want to see more of this. In fact, this is a dying art. Even though we as humans are set up to love and care for each other, in the past 200 years, we're getting worse and worse and worse at this as businesses. I'm going to take this moment to advertise my OkCupid profile, Math and Love. I am pretty much forced to do the online dating thing in my world, and it's really rough. I have to look at people's picture. I just get a little square picture, and I get a little text. And I'm supposed to feel an intimate connection with that person off of this text. And we don't have that. And that's where in Tinder, you're just swiping right, swiping right, swiping right, because we're not getting that emotional experience. I don't have that human-to-human contact. But this problem goes way beyond my dating life. Penney had a new CEO, and they wanted to care about their customers and change things around. And so the CEO of Penney said, "You know what I think we need to do? We need to take out discounts. Discounts are broken. People don't want them anymore. Let's change. Let's do something out of love." But the problem is the CEO of Penney didn't have very good science. And so his act of caring cost the company $985 million in one quarter. $985 million. And so that's the cost of not caring, is that your company can actually fall and get destroyed. So what I've been doing for my PhD and what I want to talk to you guys about today is if companies are furthering themselves away from their customers, how can we start caring again? How can we bring love and science together? And I'm going to tell that story through Lego. I love working with the company Lego, and partly because they care so much about their customers. They are 100% dedicated to the kids. But that doesn't mean that loving is an easy process. They were specifically working on a new tool, a digital tool for the iPad for instructions. And they didn't really know what would be useful about an iPad instructions. They knew kids liked them, but what exactly about iPad instructions would grab the kids and make them excited? They did a market study where they had some of the kids use the new iPad app and have some of the kids use the paper instructions. And you guys probably in your businesses have very similar numbers where, hey, look, this graph is bigger than this graph. So clearly digital instructions are better. Kids reported liking them more. My number one tip to you, if you really want to love your customers, you got to get beyond self-reported numbers. And how I'm going to argue that is with the story of Matthew. Matthew's parents invited me to his house. And as I get into Matthew's house, I learned that he's never built with Lego Technic. Now, Lego Technic's the ones with the gears and the axles. And this was going to be his first time building Lego Technic. And so I sat and I just watched him build Lego Technic and the paper instructions and the digital instructions. All right, let's see if this video starts playing. Oh, look, it does. I want you to pay close attention to this green chair over here as Matthew is on step number 3 of building the Lego set. And now he's pretending to drop a piece. He's under the table. Now, when I asked Matthew afterwards, what is your favorite Lego set? Which one do you really love building? Matthew put his hand on his chin. He said, Elliott, that's a tough question. Let me think about that. He looks at me with his devious eyes and he says, you know what? I think it's Lego Technic. The Lego set that he just asked his mother, can I stop playing with this because it's so bad? And so I tried to reframe the question. Well, you know, I have a cousin about your age, and I'm going to get him a present. What present should I get him? Matthew puts his hand on his chin again. I think you should get him Lego Technic. And, you know, kids are funny because they're really bad at lying. But this is not just a kid problem. Everyone we work with has challenges expressing how they're actually feeling. Instead, they report to us social norms, what we want to hear. So I'm not just going to say it's over. I got a solution to this problem, how to get over numbers. Number 2 is get real intimate. So let's go back to my dating life. What I don't do when I date people, especially on the first date, is I don't take a little survey with me and then give it over to them. I get 1 through 10. How's this dating experience going right now? And I have some follow-up questions if you're comfortable with that. That's not how I go on dates. What I do is I look at hidden cues. I look at, is her skin being flush? Is she leaning in? How fast is she talking? Is she texting her friends saying this is a bad date? These are all ways for me to understand how this date is going beyond just her self-report. And what I've been working at MIT is how can we capitalize on all these hidden signals that are actually communicating how we're really feeling. And what that has led me to build is the MOXO sensor. The MOXO sensor measures people's skin conductance, which is a marker of the sympathetic nervous system. So when people get stressed or excited or anxious, we'll see changes in the MOXO sensor. So for the Lego study, I basically put a lie detector on children as they started building with Legos. So this is Matthew with his mom. And the Lego study, they specifically told me don't include parents. We don't know. Most of the time, kids aren't with their parents, and we don't want to look at that. We just want the kids to build by themselves. But the mom cared so much for Matthew that she insisted that she come in and help him out. And then I looked at the MOXO data of what it was like for Matthew to work with his mom compared by himself. So this yellow line right here, this is when Matthew is building with his mom. He's calming down. He's relaxing. We can see that in the descent. But then his mom leaves, and we start seeing all these spikes. And what's happening here is Matthew's getting more and more stressed and frustrated. About a minute later, he once again leaves the table and asks his mom if he can quit. What this data was showing me is that even though parents aren't always there, if we can include them in building challenging Lego sets, it's going to help kids stay much more relaxed. And now I'm working with Lego on new ways that we can actually include parents. All right. It's not as easy as just getting intimate. The number 3 tip I have on how to combine love and science is make caring continuous. Too often, my clients hire me for the innovation or the brainstorming phase. You know, we need to come up with a new product. So for 2 weeks, we're going to really care about our customers. And we want you to tell us what's going wrong. And then we need you to leave the room. What I find is, especially when it comes to emotional experiences, your first idea is going to be wrong. Emotions are highly complicated, and there's a lot of interacting parts, and you really have to keep prototyping over and over again. I call it emototyping. So let's take an example of this Lego study. This is Ryan. And now Ryan loves iPads. When I came in, he just showed me all the video games he had on his iPad. We had to actually drag him away to get him to play with the Lego set. But he was hesitant at first, but then when he saw that the Lego set had an iPad app, he was so excited. And this is what we're going for. We're like, yes, we are caring about this guy, and he's going to love working with it. So let's watch another video. The vice president of Lego Instructions and I are in the other room watching Ryan build with the iPad app. So right now, Ryan cannot figure out exactly where this piece goes. And he turns off the app. And he stays with the paper instructions for the rest of the time, which is ruining my research study because I need to see how the app is working. But what's interesting about this is Ryan is telling us a story here. He's saying, you have to work really hard to get me to use the app because the instructions are so well made. This quality really needs to be high. And so for Ryan, the app wasn't working. We need to actually figure out some additional value add besides just being on the iPad. And what we discovered with Ryan is that there was a challenge he had, but it wasn't about, oh, I need a digital medium. For him, he makes a mistake around minute 0 here, but he doesn't realize it, so he's not stressed. And he has to call his dad for help. Calling dad for help is stressful, so we'll see a little spike here. And then his dad says a curious thing. He says, you have to go back. And when his dad says you have to go back, we see a large spike of stress. And he says, I don't want to go back. And his dad lets him build a little by himself. And his dad comes back in and says, son, you have to go back. That's 5 steps. I don't want to do this. And we get a large spike again. Eventually, Ryan keeps trying to figure it out, and he can't do it without going back. And he calls his dad and says, I don't want to do this. Can we play with a game instead? Now, this is a red flag. If you're doing a study on Legos and you gave the kid free Legos and he's asking to play with a different product, we clearly have a problem here. And I saw this with multiple kids. Going back is incredibly stressful. And so what we created was a way to address that issue in our next version of our prototype. It's just a simple drawing here where there's an animation where the hands move the gears. And the gears will actually move. And it says, hey, are the gears moving correctly? And you know this is successful when you show the kids this option of helping them self-reflect, or we could have video games. And the kids are saying, oh man, I sure love video games, but man, I really need a way to reflect. And so that was a real success moment for me, is that when we really hit what the kids needed. And so if you use the apps today, they actually have ways for kids to reflect and see how things are going as they build. But this isn't just about Lego. There's a much bigger vision I have here. I want to see companies start caring about their customers and taking it seriously. And how am I going to do good science so I can really understand my customers? We've helped classical concerts bring in new people and engage them. We've been able to make retail spaces increase their sales by 10%. Just by engaging their customers and understanding them. We've been able to help kids with autism and ADHD have better therapies and more effective therapies just because we started to understand what was stressing them out in therapy. But let's just give it to the guy who already knows how to do this. It's my dad. It was the last day of school, and he wasn't going to see any of the kids anymore because he was switching routes to a new bus route. And he wanted to let them know that he appreciated them. So he bought these 10-cent pinwheels. And he gave every kid on the bus a pinwheel. And as he's driving down the damn road, he sticks out, all the kids started sticking out the pinwheels. And they were laughing, and they were giggling, and they just had a really great end-of-the-year experience. So the challenge I have for all of you guys is, what is going to be your pinwheel? How are you going to let your customers know you understand and you care for them so much that you've created an experience they didn't even know they could have? So thank you.